Right, I think we're live. I hope we're live. And hello to yet another live Graticast, and hello again to the Miracle Marathon Master, Mike, who's also probably much better at English than I am. So,
Hello.
hi Mike.
Hello.
And welcome back.
Thank you.
And thank you for not bringing the weather with you.
Well, I did my best to leave it behind.
Everybody has been liking your posts around Facebook and liking our posts about you on Facebook, so you've definitely made a heck of an impression with your marathon and your trial. So we'll start in a moment finding out about that, but I also would like to introduce everybody to Elizabeth, who of course was the heart of the whole reason you were running, is that right?
It is, yes. Yes, she was the person that walked in 2 minutes after I decided to do this rather stupid event. And I thought, that's it, there's my charity, because Elizabeth has ME chronic fatigue.
And I just love being a charity case.
Well, she's wearing a medal, I see. Is that...
That's Daddy's.
That's his, okay, so...
Yeah, that's my North Pole medal. I thought since I'd run the race for her, she should wear it.
Okay, so she wasn't on piggyback the whole way through?
Thankfully not, no. No, I think that really would have been too much.
Okay, we were hoping to be joined by another very important member of the team, which is Holly, but she seems to have skedaddled at the moment. So can you just explain who Holly is for a moment?
Holly the Husky. She is a Siberian Husky, purebred, and we got her about 18, 20 months before the race, because I'd run out of two-legged partners who were willing to do the distance. The pressure of doing more and more miles and that sort of thing. People sort of fell by the wayside, and I was getting a bit lonely. So we were told, don't get this dog, that dog, or the other dog, and because whilst they'll run themselves into the grave, whereas Huskies will just keep going. And we rather like them as well, so hence we thought, yep, let's get a Husky.
Huskies are the best.
You were telling me earlier that Huskies are a very good type of dog for people with your condition as well.
Not just my condition, they're known as therapy dogs. They're a very good breed for therapy dogs, which they can go into hospitals and help look after people.
And
just
they're
encourage
absolutely
them.
beautiful as well, aren't they?
Yes.
They are, yes. Yes, ours is particularly lovely.
Please do, please do. While Elizabeth is just going off to fetch Holly, I'd like to say, just as always, that because this is a live Graticast, we will be able to take some of your questions live. As Holly's telling you here.
Holly!
Oh,
Oi.
she's a bit camera shy, clearly.
Yes, clearly camera shy, doesn't like the lights.
Running partner, not necessarily a videography partner.
Got it.
Go hello. Hey. This is the reason why Tito isn't with me today, by the way. Hey. Hello. Yes, I was just in the middle of saying that, what was I saying? Yes, that's right. We will be taking your questions live for Mike if you have any, about a quarter of an hour's time. But please do make sure that you're putting your questions up here on YouTube, because it's only me here today, the only member of the Graticast team who was free. So I won't be able to check Twitter and Facebook at the same time. If you have a question for Mike or Elizabeth, or Holly, please do type it in to the feed on YouTube, and I'll look forward to looking at your questions later. Right now though, Mike, I guess the essential question is, how did it feel going around the North Pole? How many times?
12 times. We did 12 laps, 3.5 kilometres each. And it was good that they were laps. Because it meant that we could go past the food tent, and I'm rather keen on quite a lot of food, after each lap. I did the first 2 laps consecutively. Thereafter I just went in and defrosted as much as anything else. Because the weather was minus 27, beautiful blue skies and sun at the start. But it was still freezing, obviously. After the second lap, I found that my balaclava and face mask were totally frozen solid. Even though you got the warm breath going through them, you'd thought they wouldn't freeze that quickly, but they did. And they had hot air blowers, so we were able to take all our frozen bits and pieces off and defrost them, have something to eat and drink, and then go back out again. And that became more and more important as the race went on.
Yeah, because you told us last time that it's not like a normal marathon where you have to just keep plugging away the whole time.
No.
But I guess that added a new dimension to it, because if you're coming in from the freezing cold and getting all nice and warm and fed up, you've then got to somehow find the drive to go back out into the elements again. So where was that drive coming from?
Good question, actually. It was predominantly sensible answers. It was predominantly the willpower, the will that I've got all these people behind me that I couldn't give up on, and at the end of the day, I was only running for 8.5 hours, which is a long time to run in those conditions, and I was tired.
So like the use of the word "only" in that sentence.
Yeah.
Only 8.5 hours. Only the length that most people, sleep.
Yes.
Well, at least it wasn't 18.
Well, at least it wasn't 18. Yes,
that's true.
The thing that kept me going is that I'm only tired for this brief time, whereas Elizabeth and other ME sufferers are tired all the time. How do they get out of bed? How do they do anything? Have a shower. It doesn't matter whatever it is, and that's what kept me going. Is that, don't be so pathetic. Get yourself back out there and finish it.
Yeah, your daughter does it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, what is it that gives you the energy to get up and shower and do all of the stuff that we know is quite difficult?
I refuse to be caged, even by my own body. That's about it.
Good answer. I mean, I don't think anybody would like to be caged by their own body, so
No.
it's great that we've got people like you, Mike, who are going out and helping to fund the research that's helping you to spread your wings, I guess, and get free of that cage.
Yeah.
But was it really on your mind the whole time? I mean, at any point did you find yourself turning into a zombie and just trudging on because you were on autopilot? Or?
Yeah. Yes. The first 6 or 7 laps weren't too bad. I changed my top half of my gear at the end of lap 7.
Was that after doing our Snow Angel?
No. I did your Snow Angel after the race.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I noticed when I took my kit off, in a nice warm tent I hasten to add, that my outer jacket was absolutely sopping wet. My inner fleece, when I undid it, it came off like cardboard. It was totally solid ice.
Wow.
So where I'd sweated, it had frozen. So I literally just creased it in half and chucked it underneath the camp bed we were staying on that night, and replaced the base layer as well. So I went back out in 2 dry layers, and sadly I didn't have a spare outer for the race anyway. And it was nice for about half an hour, but thereafter started to get cold again. Then you really start to notice, and that's when the zombie effect starts to kick in. And also roughly at that time the weather changed dramatically, and it went from -27 to -41, and the wind picked up, the clouds came over, and it was like a totally different race. The more people that run the route, the more chopped up it becomes. So if you imagine Glastonbury on the first day compared with the last day, the mud, it just won't go away, and that's very similar to the circuit we were running on, because the snow got deeper and deeper and deeper because of all the people running through it and cutting it up.
So even though you're going just around in the same lap, you're still running through different terrain almost.
Oh, yes.
Meeting new obstacles.
Yes, and the wind completely buried the course. The only thing we could see towards the end were these flags that were dotted around to try and show us where they are.
It looks kind of black.
Yes.
Is that nice and visible in the white snow?
Everything was white, so
yeah.
Yes, they showed up very nicely. The wind was such that these are plastic, and the wind was destroying them. That's how strong the wind was. But it did mean that we had snowdrifts just coming in, which made it even deeper and harder and more tiring to complete the course.
Oh, well done again for completing it. What was your final position?
I came 24th out of 44 starters.
My maths isn't the best
about halfway.
in the world, but yeah, that does sound about halfway through.
Yeah, I believe there were 33 people finished the marathon, 5, I think, were granted a half marathon status because they did 6 or more laps before they couldn't do any more. That leaves 6 people didn't finish, or didn't get a half marathon.
So, well, I mean, by any stretch of the imagination, it's going to be impressive because just from the temperatures that you're mentioning going out into and being sort of caged by your own sweat in ice. And you say you came 24th, but do you know whether anyone else was out there running with a pacemaker?
I know that nobody was running with a pacemaker. And
no one.
No, I am the only person to have entered and completed with a pacemaker.
So you're the first person to have ever done that?
I am indeed.
He's made the history books.
Absolutely. Do you know if people with pacemakers tend to run marathons in general?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah?
Yeah. The people who make my pacemaker, I can't remember the names now, Meditest or something, Medicure, they have 20 people that they put forward for the Minneapolis Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to be kept alive by some kind of medical electronics to enter the team. And it's kind of a lottery. So you put your name in, you say why you feel you would be better than anyone else that might have entered.
Mm-hmm.
And they send 20 people to Minneapolis Marathon. So yes, there's lots of pacemaker people who do enter marathons.
The camera's that way.
Yeah, look that way. Yes, I know, you like onion, but you're not supposed to have it.
So having completed the North Pole Marathon, have you caught the bug to go out and try more?
Well, yes, I've entered the Minneapolis team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least I've applied to be on the team. So I find out in June whether or not I'm on that, and that's an October run.
Mm-hmm.
But several other people who are at the North Pole were very, very tempted by another race that the race organiser does.
Oh.
And we're thinking of 2 years' time, but it's a question of raising the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 7 marathons on 7 continents and 7 consecutive days.
Is that running to each of the continents?
No, they fly you there,
Uh-huh.
you run a marathon, get back on the plane, sleep, get off the plane, run the next marathon, get back on the plane, sleep.
So you're sort of chasing the sun?
Kind of.
Ah, that sounds really exciting.
Oh, yes.
And also absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how people like you get the energy, let alone the sanity to complete such tasks. But I just want to ask you, Elizabeth, when your dad first said to you, I'm thinking of doing this and I'm thinking of doing it for you, what were the thoughts that went through your mind?
Well, first of all, he didn't say I'm thinking.
All right. Just, I'm doing this.
Yes, I'm going to run a marathon on the North Pole
Uh-huh.
for you.
And that
Great.
means he's doing it, then I take it.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Dad has a way of doing whatever he sets his mind on.
Mm-hmm.
My first reaction was, what? Once I processed it, I said, no, you'll get eaten by a polar bear.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was, you could fall through a crack in the ice. Then there was, oh heck, do it, you'll do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, resigned.
Resigned, but at that point, did he get your full support?
No.
Oh. So what stage did that come, or did it never come at all?
I deliberately never encouraged him. I felt it a very big risk and we rely on Dad a lot.
Mm.
But I never discouraged him either.
Mm.
And at some point I started taking pride in what he was doing, but I'm not entirely sure when it was. I do know it was a few months after he told me.
Mm. Could it have been after he completed the challenge?
No.
No, so it was before he went
It was
down
before
there.
he went.
Excellent. So, yeah, we've spoken a little bit with your dad about how ME affects life within your house. Spoken with your mum about it as well, because she suffers from fibromyalgia, which is it's kind of similar, isn't it, in terms of some of the symptoms that you get, although we think it might be different causes. How do you cope with it on a daily basis?
That's exactly how. I take every day, every minute, one at a time. As you know, I only agreed to do this morning, and that is partially due. You're welcome. That is partially due to the fact that I can't plan anything. I can't know from 1 hour to the next how well I'll be. So I just deal.
So how has it affected your plans for your future? Like, what do you want to go ahead and do? Because you're not in college anymore, are you?
No, I had to leave college after 3 weeks. I was doing 2 hours every other day, and by the end of 3 weeks I literally looked like a zombie. So I was asked to leave. But
so they asked you to leave?
Yes.
So was it your hope to leave, or?
I'm a lot like Dad. I would have continued until I dropped. They asked me to leave for consideration of my health, and they asked me to come back once I was recovered.
So that's quite good then, that it was obvious enough to them that it wasn't helping you being there.
No, it wasn't obvious to her. It was obvious to everybody that she was white as a sheet. She was finding it difficult to get up and go to the lessons.
By the end of the 3 weeks, my skin was quite literally hanging off my bones, and I had such huge purple circles under my eyes. You would have had to be blind not to see it.
So really, what your dad was saying about running in the North Pole Marathon, bringing up the same sort of conditions, it seems to be quite accurate. You know, as you say, going around like a zombie, physical changes to your skin, physical impact, I guess, on your movements, your ability to move, and your ability to think as well.
Yes. When I was at my primary school, which is the last time I was actually really well, I was top of the class. I was even gym class, which for most people who are top of academic classes is rather rare. I did gymnastics, I did dancing, horse riding, all kinds of things. And since I got ill, I haven't been able to do any of them, and definitely not to the level I used to.
But you clearly have some creative passions there by the sounds of it, so are you going to be using any of that as you go on?
I am currently setting up my own photography business and looking into couture design.
And you told me that earlier, and I've already forgot what couture?
Haute couture.
Haute couture
Is the proper name, yeah.
Haute couture.
Sorry,
Okay.
shortened it.
And it has nothing to do with trees?
No.
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 Okay.
No.
So what is haute couture design for those of us who don't know, right, viewers? Yeah?
That's just you.
It's just me. It probably is just me, but yeah.
Dad's better with the definitions.
It is bespoke design of clothing for individuals. So if a lady wants something that is genuinely unique, they will approach a designer, and that designer will talk to the lady and say, right, okay, what is it about you that you want to say? Because all garments, whatever the person's wearing, says something about them about that day. It can say I'm feeling morose, it can say I'm feeling passionate, I'm feeling alive. We all choose what we wear according to how we want to be perceived. So an haute couture designer will design something that says what that person wants to say, as well as looking very, very good on them.
I see. So you'll design these and then get someone else to make them?
I'm hoping.
Aha, fantastic. Would it just be ladies?
It doesn't have to be. No.
So I could get you to design something for me?
Quite possibly.
Okay. Well, I might talk to you about that after the interview.
One thing you did ask that I didn't fully answer, and that's what the was the zombie effect.
Oh, right.
And the thing that I found really bizarre is that about lap 10 to 12, I started hallucinating.
It wasn't full hallucination.
And it wasn't full hallucination, but I had absolutely no idea what my arms were. I was running along, and these things just kept appearing by my sides. and I couldn't figure out what on earth they were. And I thought, well, there's nobody else around me, so it can't be somebody else. And apparently it could have been either sleep deprivation, because running for 8.5 hours it's going to be tiring. So it could be exhaustion. It could have been onset of hypothermia. We have no real idea what it was, because I didn't get hypothermia. I didn't get frostbite even. I was very, very lucky. Lots of people did. 5 people got hypothermia. I think something like 12 or 13 people got frostbite. But yeah, it was the most bizarre experience. And when I eventually figured out what they were, I was sort of, okay. Then my mind wandered off onto something else. But yeah, I mean, most people pay good money for drugs that will do that. I got it free.
It didn't make you scared or anything, having things
I'm a
that
bit
you...
too out of it to be scared, and
Yes.
I'm thinking it was exhaustion because I've been there.
Yeah, I think it probably was just exhaustion. But it did make me a little wary. I wouldn't say scared, but by that time, lots of people had finished. So the laps that we were doing were becoming less and less populated, and I wasn't running with somebody. I was just out there running by myself. Yeah, at some points I looked forward, and the closest person was 500 yards away, and I looked back and I couldn't see anyone at all. And I was just thinking, if I get stuck, how long is it going to take people to find me? But also, if somebody went off the beaten track, it would be so easy for them to get lost and not found. It really would be quite incredibly
Were there not
scary.
people going around keeping an eye on what you guys are up to?
They relied on the runners to look after each other, and we were told that.
Okay.
And there was one particular lady who was struggling, and I looked after and helped her, and ran back and started to talk to the race organiser in order to get her some help. As it turned out, she finished and it was all fine. But yes, that was quite an unusual experience.
Did any point in your hallucinations did Holly arrive to keep
No.
by your side?
No, sadly not.
So she stayed away even then.
Yep. There were several occasions when I just felt this overwhelming desire just to lie down and go to sleep.
No
So-
matter where you are.
No matter where I was out in the snow, and I just thought, I've had it. I really need to go to sleep now.
And what stopped you?
There was something at the back of my mind that said, you can't. You've got to get back to base. And then having got back to base and the food tent and warmed up, taken on some more food and water and that sort of thing, your mind picks up again and you think, all right, yeah, let's go again. And that was a battle for the last 3 laps. So it
Welcome
was,
to my world, Daddy.
yeah, at least if you fall down and go to sleep around the
carry me.
house, yeah, I either carry you to bed or you're somewhere where I can just leave you there anyway. It's going to sleep on the snow, which in wet clothing because you've sweated, is not the best of ideas.
Yeah, well, going to sleep on the streets of London isn't the best idea.
No, but at least you're
I
not
know
sweating.
that back in the mind voice. It's mine says nope, bad idea.
We have had a comment come in. It's not a question, but we have had a comment from Tracy saying that you are both very inspiring people.
Thank you, Tracy.
And yeah,
Thanks.
she has best wishes for the future for both of you.
Thank you.
That has actually prompted another question in my mind, though. I don't know whether this was in her thoughts or not, but you've come back from this marathon. You've come back from this incredible adventure, and you had such a real motivation for doing it. What was it like coming back to reality? I mean, did people stop you in the street? Did people at work say anything? What's it been like settling back in?
Lots of people who knew I was doing it didn't stop me in the street, so I didn't meet anyone on the street that I knew, but certainly everyone at work came over and shook my hand and said, well done, proud of you, and phone calls from the family saying, thank God you're back, and Yeah, don't do it again.
Yes, did Grandad withdraw his sponsorship?
Yeah, he did. Yes, my father was going to sponsor me not to do it. Yes, sadly, Invest in ME didn't get that. But no, it was to some extent rather odd coming back, because you go from this area of absolute isolation, total silence. I mean, genuine silence, which is very, very rare.
Even when you're running.
Because you, I mean, okay, when you're running, you can hear the crunch, crunch, crunch underneath your feet. But when you stop and you look out at the end of the race, before the race, and you suddenly realise that actually there is no sound whatsoever. I mean, anywhere in the UK, anywhere probably other than the North Pole, maybe the South Pole, you're going to have birds, bugs buzzing around, you're going to have cars, aeroplanes. There is going to be a noise of some description, like rustling leaves. There's always something. It's very rare that you get genuine, perfect silence. There, it really was absolute silence, and it was incredible.
And was it in a... I mean, did you appreciate it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
My family doesn't have a tendency to enjoy being in crowds.
Yeah, we like quiet areas. That's why we live where we do.
Yeah, it was a really lovely drive coming down here, so...
Yes, we're very lucky
Thank
to
you
live
very
in
much for
Chiltern.
inviting me into your home. And also, on that note, I've had some fantastic cakes, which I think is probably the reason why Holly is eyeing up my table and my plate. But they are all gone now, I'm afraid.
Well, she doesn't get any human food anyway.
They were made by Elizabeth here, who for some reason, I'm told by her mum, doesn't eat her own cooking. Now, why is that?
I do. I just don't eat very much.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough, because I can very easily see how eating too much of these could very quickly make it impossible to do the kind of things that you do.
I'm blessed with a metabolism that I can eat virtually anything and as much of it as I like.
He eats pretty much all my baking,
Um,
and he's still like that.
yeah, and I still, you can see I eat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I'm probably still consuming somewhere in the region of 4,000 calories.
Well, sounds like you need it, to be honest.
Yes.
In fact, we have had a question from JC's Live Acoustic, which is, well, first of all, congratulating you again on another amazing challenge. But
Thank you, JC.
what is the next one?
Well, the next one is the Minneapolis Marathon.
In 2 years' time?
No, that one's October this year.
Oh, that's October this year. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the one that the pacemaker company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm applying to be on their team of 20 people.
So from now until October, you've pledged that you are going to just sit at home and do your normal thing of running around the local area for charity and doing your work and being your NHS first responder.
Yeah.
Okay, just leading an average life.
Yeah.
Something that has been left out is my father is the prime warden of a city livery, which does a lot of work for charity.
Yes, it does.
Dad's livery in particular, they make almost zero profit. Anything that doesn't pay what they need paid is put into charity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Worshipful Company of Blacksmiths. And Prime Warden means that for the year, I'm top dog. So as well as looking after Elizabeth and my wife Lara,
Running your own company.
running my own company, being an NHS responder, running the North Pole Marathon, I'm also top dog of the City Livery Company, which means I'll do about 140 events this year.
I don't think I don't think I ever dreamed of meeting anyone like you, to be honest, because the amount of stuff that you do. Oh yes, I think most people try not to become like you.
Yes, I did give up being a parish councillor though.
Okay, well that's fair enough. And a school governor maybe?
No, I've thought about that.
No, but you.
But I haven't done it yet.
However, he did hold high influence over my primary school.
Yeah, they knew that if I got a bee in my bonnet about something, that it was easier to give in than say no.
Told you.
Well, yes, indeed. You certainly sound like that sort of man. I guess though, do you sometimes feel bad about leaving your family behind, knowing that your wife has the fibromyalgia and your daughter has ME? I mean, do you feel that you're leaving them in capable hands when you disappear to do all of these amazing charitable things?
Generally speaking, apart from the North Pole, I'm not away for long enough that it's of great concern.
Okay.
I always make sure that I set the house up so that washing's done, dishwasher's done, there's food available. If they're both too ill to cook, I'll make sure that there is something that they can just shove in the microwave and warm up or eat cold. So it's not a concern as much as anything else. We do have friends who will pop in if there's a genuine need. Or just socialising, but that sort of thing. And while I was away, we had friends pop in and make sure everyone was still alive and eating and all the rest of it. But by and large, I'm not away for more than 2/3 of the day.
Good. I mean, this is the Graticast, and before we get to the end, I am, of course, going to be asking you both for your gratitudes from recently. But I think behind every man like you, there has to be a huge support team. And your friends coming around to help out, your family as well. You look like you're going to add to that list.
Yes, our family is rather large and
Right.
very connected to each other. Mum's in contact with her siblings quite frequently. There is an ME support group for both Mum and for myself. There's ME mums and Just for Us for the kids who have the condition. Mum's friends come round. My great aunt makes frequent appearances. And Dad's work colleagues also help look after us sometimes.
Yes, that's the thing that I've been so overwhelmed by, is that the company that I part own, they have been so supportive right the way through. And it's a smallish company, there's 13 of us, but they've always been offering, can we go and drop in, make sure everything's okay, or Lara particularly, if she needs to be taken somewhere, because she barely drives now, then they're very happy to help and offering to take her places.
And we're allowed to mention the name of the company, aren't we?
Oh, we're allowed
Yes.
to. Yes.
This is Orchard House, I believe. Is
Yes,
that right?
Orchard House IFAs Limited in Henley. A fabulous group of people. Absolutely lovely to be part of it and have them as part of my company. It's brilliant. I think the person that deserves the most gratitude of anything is Gina. Gina was took her on as a PA about 18 months before the race. 18 months before I became Prime Warden, I should say. And she has been stunning, absolutely stunning. Without her, a lot of what I do would just simply not happen. And bless her, I took her on as my PA, and she's turned into so much more than that. And it was so much more than she ever agreed to in the first place, and she's just taken on the burden. And I'm looking forward to relieving her of some of that burden as life returns a bit more to normality.
Is there such a thing?
Well, yeah. At the
Not
end,
in this house.
Not in this house.
at the end of July, I stopped being Prime Warden of the Blacksmiths, and that'll be a huge drain on my time removed.
Yes, but you'll fill it.
Oh, I'll fill it with something. Hopefully work.
She obviously knows you very well.
Yes.
18 years.
Well, we're definitely getting a sense here that even though Mike is a miracle marathon runner, as we've already established, and has completed this incredible challenge, which I think most people without a pacemaker would struggle with, but he's managed to complete it with a pacemaker, with this incredible inspiration by his side as well, who herself is doing amazing things, not just cakes, but planning for the future and keeping going. But all of this wouldn't be the case without a huge support network who aren't here, who probably wouldn't fit in this room if we tried to bring them all here. And largely that will include you folks as well.
Oh, definitely.
On the screen below me, I hope you can see the link to Mike's Just Giving page, where you can still, it is possible to still donate to Invest in ME through the North Pole Challenge page there. And do you know how much you've raised so far?
6.5, we reckon. 6,500.
£6,500. Now, just to put that in perspective, Invest in ME recently had a news article about how they had managed to raise £500,000 over, I think it was something like 4 years. So to raise, what was it, 1%, just over 1% of that, for running around the North Pole is pretty amazing. And the kind of things that money is helping scientists to do is discover more about the very complex disease of ME that even now is a diagnosis of exclusion, where you can't really test to find out if someone has it. They have to find out whether you've not got loads of other things first, haven't they?
Yes, I felt like a pincushion for over 3 months.
Yeah, it's not pleasant to have. It's not pleasant to be tested for. It's really just not pleasant, and Mike's had a go at really experiencing a little bit of that himself through the North Pole Marathon. So if you have been finding this amazing, and looking at the comments that have been coming in, so many of you have, if you haven't already, please head to that page and put some money towards Mike's cause, Elizabeth's hopeful future treatment, and that for many sufferers of ME worldwide. I've got 3 more questions for you, 2 of which you already know are coming, no surprises there, but I do have to ask, did you see a polar bear?
Not a live one.
Not a live one? Okay.
No. There was a stuffed polar bear on the luggage carousel at the arrivals lounge, which is a very fine specimen. There was another one in the hotel, once again stuffed. It was sort of all up, roaring at us.
So you're quite glad it was stuffed?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. But just before, and I'm not entirely certain what just before means, 3 villagers went out beyond the town. They went out beyond the town boundaries and were mauled to death by a polar bear. Everyone there has to carry weapons, and even though they'd taken a weapon with them, the shell had stuck in the breech, so they couldn't fire it, and they ended up dying. So they are around.
And so were you running with weapons as well?
No, we had snipers on the course. And I know this is going to be a terrifically sexist comment, but it gives you an idea of how everybody out there is trained and licensed from whatever the age of consent was. I didn't gather what age that was, but they legally have to have a license and a weapon. And one of our snipers was a young lady. She must have been in her very, very early 20s, petite, absolutely petite. And she was there with a rifle protecting us. And I just thought that really shows that from a very young age they are trained to competently defend against polar bears.
So your father was in safe hands, safe sights at least.
Safe sights.
Yes. I'm not entirely sure I agree with the polar bears being hurt, though. I just wish they could set off a loud noise or something.
Oh, they
to scare
do.
it away.
Yeah. The first instance is to shoot in the air. The second instance is to shoot in the ground around them so that it sprays up. And if they start to charge, where they're going to be shot.
Okay, so they're giving you some pretty good warnings.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
This is me. I don't entirely agree with it when my father's life is on the line.
Well,
Yes.
I don't think any of us would.
So your father can go, but the polar bears are shoot the father, not the polar bear.
No, it's shoot the polar bear if you absolutely have to.
Yeah, well, that would have been the only reason.
Okay.
Of course. Well, like I said, this is the Graticast. We're all about counting our blessings here, and well, one of the biggest blessings we can all count is that you're back safely, without any teeth marks.
Yes.
But I know you've already given us a long list of thanks for in your first interview with us, but are there any that you'd like to add to that, or any that you'd like to say again?
I've already mentioned the Orchard House bit. My family have been fantastic. As much as they think I'm completely crazy, and as much as they're telling me not to do the 7 marathons bit, they are all very supportive. Yeah, they're very supportive, and they really do back me up, and they give me the energy to keep going. Omega is another one that I didn't mention last time. Oxfordshire ME support group. I've given a speech at one of their functions, and they've been very supportive all the way through. Richard and Pia at Invest in ME, they have been just fabulous. I've asked them for various bits and pieces to help me advertise and get the word out and that sort of thing, and they've asked me to speak at their annual dinner in about a month's time, I think it is.
Fantastic.
So yes, and all the corporate sponsors, yeah, they know who they are. They've actually said not to say who they are. They're happy to be in the quiet.
I don't know whether the microphone picked up the whisper that came around the corner, but was that intended for your father or for you?
It was a reminder, Dave Smith.
Oh, right.
Oh, Dave Smith. I thanked him very much on the last one, so I was doing additions.
Yes.
But Dave Smith is an absolute star. He's a brick. He was the chap that when I phoned and said, almost in tears, I've missed the plane, take me home, this has all been for nothing. Not only did he drive over to Heathrow to get me, but he'd already looked up what planes there were and how he could get me back on schedule, and drove me all the way to Amsterdam in order that I could catch a plane with 10 minutes to spare after that long journey. And that, nice as pie, he didn't tell me that his sat-nav doesn't change the hour when it goes across into Europe. So I thought, we've got loads of time. I thought we had an extra hour. But it's when we actually drove up to the airport that he said, actually, it's now 6:15, not 5:15, and your check-in's at 6:30. So you will just
managed
make
to
it.
keep you calm
Yes.
until the moment.
Yes, but
Sensible man.
amazing guy. That's yes, it's what true friendship's about, and he really has proved it.
Definitely worth mentioning again then. What about you, Elizabeth? Have you got blessings to count from recently?
Most of my family and friends, my father especially. They've just they've kept me going and kept me sane, which is difficult. So yeah, I'd like to thank all my family and friends.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you to, well, as I was saying earlier, everybody who has supported Mike and Elizabeth, and all of you guys who are watching right now and supporting just by watching this interview.
Yes, all the people on Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. All the people on Facebook who have been sharing around all of the blog posts that Mike's been putting up there, and everyone in Invest in ME who's been helping to spread the word too. It is a very, very bad and painful and at times knackering, what's the word? Debilitating. Just, it doesn't let you do anything, does it? Inhibiting, I think is the word I was going for.
It's always tiring, sometimes painful.
Always tiring, sometimes painful, and
generally messes with your mind.
And it's actually quite widespread too, and yet it doesn't get as much press as it needs. So we are very, very grateful to people like Mike, who does something absolutely incredible, not for himself, but for those who are suffering or who are going to end up suffering from this very awkward and life-changing disease. But I'd like to finish with a positive, and very fortunately, Elizabeth has chosen a really great Gratitune, a very inspiring Gratitune for us to finish with. So I'm going to let her talk about it just while I try and make sure that my iPad is able to play it. What is it?
This is Once in Every Lifetime by Jam. It's something we find very inspiring, and it inspires me and Dad to really reach for what we can do, and it tells us that we can do basically anything.
Which clearly you can.
Put your mind to it, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's an inspiration to everybody, I think. So thank you ever so much. It is Once in Every Lifetime by Gem. It's available on YouTube. You can search for it right now, I hope. And when the recorded version of this goes live on YouTube, I'll make sure I put the link on there for you as well. Thank you ever so much again, guys, for
Thank you.
welcoming us all into your house. It is a lovely house. And thank you, Holly,
Who's now asleep?
who is now conked out on the rug, helping us to remember to be nice and calm. A calming influence on your whole house, a house that can often get crazy at times, I guess.
Yes.
And I look forward to joining you guys next week for actually another live Graticast, this time with the founder of the charity Smile for ME, Alice Wright. She's going to be talking to us about exactly what inspired her to start that charity, what exactly it is that she does, and things like that. So again, please do hang on for 7 o'clock next week. Start thinking of some questions that you can send us through Facebook or Twitter or Google+. And please also, if you're not already, subscribe here on YouTube and help us send some of YouTube's ad revenue to places like Invest in ME to change the future for the better. Thank you ever so much again, and ciao for now. Do you want to finish with a wave?